Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashe. In a few days, precisely on February the 16th, Nigerian balloters will troop out with shoulders held high as though wielding a royal scepter, even if that sense of power only lasts a few hours, to select a new leader or new set of leaders. And just as Abraham Lincoln said, elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. Thomas Jefferson once said that democracy only happens on the day of elections, and after that, the people go to rest. Nigerians, after that day, will have to live with the consequences of their decision or inaction for the next 4 years. Their fate will either be those of an abandoned, neglected, and forgotten lot, or the prized possession of empathetic leaders. How prepared are security agencies, INEC, and the electorate for the polls? What factors will determine the outcome of the polls, and who among the more than 70 presidential candidates will emerge the people's choice? Well, we'll wait to see how things play out. It's not every day that you stare death in the face and live to tell the story. But one man has done it, not once but twice, under the same life-threatening circumstance. While he is giving thanks for facing the worst and coming out unscathed, another is threatening that the worst might befall anyone who interferes with the coming elections.
I want to just thank the Almighty God for delivering us today. That the crash of our helicopter. Only the Almighty God could do such a thing. All of us came out without a scratch. So we want to thank the Almighty God for that. And to say also that we rejoice with you, Your Majesty, because I'm sure that it would have been a terrible tragedy for you if anything had happened to us. But we rejoice and we pray that in your lifetime you will not mourn any of us, your children.
Those that are calling for anyone to come and intervene in Nigeria, we are waiting for the person that will come and intervene. They will go back in body bags. Okay. Because nobody will come to Nigeria and tell us how to run our country. We've got that independence, and we are trying to run our country as decently as possible. And we know the history of those countries that are trying to teach us these things. We have read their history. We also know at their own stages of development, they went through these challenges. So please, let's work together. Let's advise one another, but don't lecture us.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai are our persons of the week. Well, this is the last program before the presidential and National Assembly elections. So I will analyze the coming polls with a panel of well-seasoned analysts. And I have Bosun Osifo-Ora. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
I have Nelson Ekujimi. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
And Japhet Odesonya.
My pleasure.
Now, the discussion, gentlemen, many say this presidential election will be the most keenly contested so far in Nigeria's democratic experience. Do you agree with that, Bosun?
Yes, very much. Because if we look at recent history, if we take it from, let's start from the Abiola and Tofa thing, you find that there's an underdog, there's a heavyweight. Mm-hmm. If you come down to even Obasanjo, when he came in, it was him, you know, the heavyweight, then an underdog. But even up to the last election, the incumbent was more like the underdog. And Buhari came in with the heavyweight status. But this time around, it's so keenly contested. Atiku is as much an heavyweight as Buhari himself.
You think so? Do you agree with that, Japhet?
Sam, I agree. I agree because obviously, you know, Atiku is not an underdog. And like he has rightly put, it's going to be keenly contested. And it is. We are seeing it. And that is the beauty of democracy, liberal democracy, the choice, you know, and the constitutional responsibility to guarantee that you have a choice in the first instance. Yeah. And that's what we are witnessing.
That's it. As some people have said, you know, this is not that difficult to predict, that this is an election that is of geopolitical consequence. And if you want to do the permutation, you just have to look at the geography, and then it is very clear where the chips are going to fall.
Yes.
If you look at it, that area, do you still think this is a keenly contested election?
No, looking at it from that viewpoint,
yes,
I don't think it is a keenly contested election. It will be a keenly contested election because, you know, the permutations are very out there and you can read between the lines. And I don't think we should measure candidates on the basis of their caliber, but rather I think candidates should be measured on the basis of their followers, on the basis of people who are aligning with their, you know, candidacy.
You mean the viability of the candidacy?
Candidacy, yes. So I think that is where I will talk about the keenness or otherwise of the election. And if you look at the candidacy of the two leading parties now, you will see that one candidate has a higher integrity pedestal than the other. And for some of us, when you look at even the rallies, because no matter how you want to look at it, the turnout at campaign rallies goes a long way in determining where the pendulum will swing on election day. Because, you know, that has always been part of the yardstick used in deciding or forecasting who will carry the day. So in this case, I think, you know, just like in 2015, we all saw what played out based on all these factors. And, you know, here we are again in 2019, and, you know, it's staring us in the face.
But soon, I know you're itching to say something, but before you say anything, I contest the argument that Buhari was an underdog Jonathan was an underdog in 2015. Yes.
The odds were against.
Many people didn't believe that.
The odds were against.
Maybe after the fact you will say so, but they believe that Jonathan had the incumbency. Yeah. No incumbent had ever been defeated. He had security. He was in control of the structures across the country. He had more dollars than any other candidate in the history of Nigerian electoral money contest.
If you want to go along those lines,
yes.
You said he had security. At that point, it was as if he wasn't in control of the security apparatus of the nation. In fact, it was during Jonathan's time that we saw that people were declaring caliphates within a republic. He had practically lost the security. It was C on paper, but in reality, then you had an electorate that was fed up. I mean, there was so much apathy. I mean, people were like, you know what, we want change. And you know, the other party came with the change.
The electorate that was fed up.
It was not.
It depends on where you were looking at.
I
remember when I was calling on election day, I called my state, Delta, and they were saying, what are you talking about? The election is over. Jonathan has won. I got people in the East, they said that Jonathan has won. No. You see, it's just what I think, Japheth, is happening in this season, that people are living in their own echo chamber.
Yes. Yeah.
So you talk to this person, you say this is the person I like, and then the other person seems not to be
exactly
on the plane of reality.
That pedestal with you.
Yes.
Exactly. You know, Hayes Johnson.
Yes.
Who was a Pulitzer winner.
Yeah.
A writer of the Washington Post.
Yes.
He wrote, in the absence of government in running America, he was referring to Jimmy Carter and his inability to secure a second term and all the rest. Yes. And when you look at it, that was a very good picture Boston has painted about the Jonathan's era. But at the moment, we have to talk about stomach infrastructure. We have to talk about integrity. Issues, now are quite different. So much promises in 2015. So much that I felt, I have a dream that I will be part of a Nigeria that I have ever dreamt of.
Yes.
And I will slug it out and struggle and ensure that it comes to reality. And it did come. But to what extent? And what degree? After 3 years now. So those are the questions, Sam. And I think we should go in that direction. Revalidation process has begun. And that is electioneering season.
Nancy, do you think that this election is actually about the pocketbook, or it is about me versus them?
Well, for me, I think
that's tricky.
I think the election will not be about me versus them.
Okay.
But rather it will be about people's political alliances that they have built over the years.
That's me versus them.
No, when you say,
that's me.
Okay.
It's like Tiwantiwa.
Two us race.
Exactly.
Me and them.
Yes.
It's like this is our place.
This is our enclave.
Nothing will take it from left me. According to Benin, people say left me.
Left me where I did.
I'm not careful. Left me.
So I think, that's also a key factor. But also, he talked about where we were in 2015 and what Japhet has said. I think if anybody expected magic or miracle, I think that person must be an Alice in Wonderland. Because as a person, I always tell people you have to be realistic about human affairs. That look, this government, no matter its shortcoming, it came into office and met the office in total ruins. In total ruins.
That is the area I'm going to now, Bosun. The vice president has been very, very used to saying a particular thing. He will say, Jonathan had 383 or so billion from 2010 to 2014. They have had 93 billion. And he said 2 weeks to the election, that would be like a week ago, to the election, $262 million.
No, $92 million.
No, $292
million.
$292 million disappeared from the nation's coffers. And nobody has been able to account how that money was spent. And they said, well, look, as we start today, we have Empower. We have rail, trader money. We have infrastructure. We have Lagos Ibadan Railway set. We have Itakpe, Warri set.
Yes.
We have Lagos Calabar about to take off. Lagos Kano.
Yeah.
We have roads.
America in Nigeria. We have America in Nigeria.
Kaduna, Abuja.
I know, Kaduna Abuja was for most part done by Jonathan and completed by Buhari.
But the important thing is that we've completed it.
We completed it. Then in the east, we have second Niger Bridge that is about 12 stories completed, underground, with pilings and all of that going on.
Obiano was even telling them as yesterday that there will be creation of another state.
Yes. So second Niger Bridge is of course done under this government. Then they have infrastructure. People have traveled to this. I didn't go. But people have traveled to the east to say that even in spite of the fact that the southeast was on the side of Jonathan all this while, the only thing he really did for them was give them appointments. But that Buhari has done a lot of roads. They're used sukuk money
Yeah.
to do them,
Yeah.
and so on. So they're saying, well, we met a system that was a coffers that was really in ruins. Which reminds me that maybe we just escaped Venezuela. Yes. Because if you know what's going on in Venezuela. So when you look at all of those, do you think, and then I heard last week that procurement into this port, this alternate port in Akwa Ibom, that the procurement has been completed to build a new port, Mbaka port or something like that. Now, Bosun, how would you now say of Buhari in the past for, let's say,
3.5
years?
Okay, first of all, let me just...
And then we didn't talk about power.
Let me quickly...
Fashola said recently that they are generated
more power than...
100% more power.
But what about distribution?
Than the Met. Distribution
is another.
Let
me quickly come in. Let me say this first. When this government goes, you know, we never knew about the $2 billion until the Jonathan administration left.
Yes.
By the time they leave, should they leave? I mean, if they are voted out, we hear of some dollars. We heard about the Abacha loot and how they said they would distribute it to the dregs of the society. Yeah. But when a government leaves, that's when you actually know what was taken, what has been looted and all. But for now, give it to this government. They have done significantly well compared to the last administration or even previous administration, and that has been their selling point. I mean, there are palpable developments that you can see, you can point at. People are saying, though some people have come to say, I heard Alhaji Buba Galadima in a sister station saying yesterday that it was Abacha that did the rails and did this. I was surprised, you know, but he said that those things were already there, that this government is just consolidating. But I mean, if they were there and the previous government didn't deem it fit to put those things in place, and these ones have gone there, taking those things and put them, and people can see physically, not some highfalutin things, then I think they've done well for themselves, and that might be what people will look at for them to really get them revalidated, using your word, or re-elected. But beyond that, there's still general, you know, misgivings here and there amongst electorate. You find that some people tell you that, okay, some of these things you're just telling us, the second Niger bridge we can't see. You're telling us it's inside. You know, the rail, we've not seen any train. We've not seen this, we've not seen that. And they are telling us there's light at the end of the tunnel. We've not even seen the tunnel. You know, but I think some things will count for them. And they've done something very strategic. The pensioners, that they're giving money, then this trade out money thing, you know, it's so much significant that the opposition has said that, say, is some vote buying colored in another form.
Because you cannot say it is bad, so you have to...
Exactly.
But even if it is cynical, it is true. The point is, even if it is cynical, it could be that
it's a big blow. It's a big blow to the opposition, and at the same time, it's a good sell for this for the current government.
Yeah, what would you say about it? Because it's good to look at
to balance it. Ogaga Ifowodo.
Yes.
East African poets.
A Nigerian poet.
Nigerian?
Yes, Ogaga Ifowodo is my friend. He's from Warri, he's a Roboman.
I was thinking it's a Kenyan. Honestly.
I will tell him that.
Tell him, please. Just by, he said, the ocean, the great river, the lagoons, the creeks, the swamps, the blue and the black waters, still the thirst. Water, wetting them knee-high at the doorsteps, still the thirst. Water, wetting them waist-high on the flooded streets, still the thirst. And that says a lot. It's about the paradox.
Yes.
Just like Edie.
Water everywhere, not a drop to drink.
More in the black man's body also analyzes it. Why in Africa? Why in Nigeria? Must we have this abundance and suffer? Yeah. And I think that is the complexity the complications, the apprehension at the moment facing the current administration.
That's what another poet, Russian poet,
I have dragged you to that lane. I know.
He said, abundant and empty. Yeah, we'll take a break. We'll be back. Welcome back. We are discussing February 16th, which is just a week away. Bosun, Boko Haram. They came and they declared victory. Was it a case of complacency or a case of fifth columnists?
I think it's both. Because
Or corruption?
you know, this government came campaigning on fighting corruption and providing security.
Yes.
The issue of fighting corruption is discussion for another day because the way they've gone about it, a lot of us are not pleased. I'm a lawyer. What they've done, that's not the way to go about corruption. But that's outside.
Well, they will say they've two ex-governors have been convicted. They have collected a lot of money. You can say fighting corruption and collecting money are not the same. Somebody said, I think Ozekome came here and he said it, but other people will say the whole idea, if I collect money from you, I've already shamed you, and I've collected the money. It's part of it, and that we have to start somewhere. It might not be methodical, it might not be systematic, but there's a sense of trepidation among the thieves.
Like they say in native parlance, all win away.
Yeah, all win away, yeah.
But really, on the issue of security, I don't think this government has really, if I'm going to score them, I probably will score them less than 20.
Especially in the Northeast.
In the Northeast, even in other parts, I mean, even in the Middle Belt, it's so bad that...
But it's a school down now. So what would you say?
Because of election.
They say all is well that ends well. To say that it's because of election is still speculative.
Attentions have shifted.
Unless you know who.
Or you have the facts.
You have the facts. You cannot say.
Yeah. Well, I think attention has shifted, and maybe the participants or the players also are involved in the election, so they have to.
But so just in case, then you hold on to the view that it is political and it's not herdsman crisis, because towards the end of it, I was coming to the view that this was a case of criminality and not a case of the herdsman, because the herdsman, I'm trying to do a feature on the herdsmen. I'm going to talk to them. But you people are aware of all the ordinary herdsmen. Are you aware of all these things they are saying about you people? You know that kind of thing. You see them and you don't see guns with them, and then
and you wonder where the guns come from.
At times when
Balata Kaya was on this show of blessed memory, was on this show, and he said, it is not this herdsmen that we grew up with. This was the head of the...
Yes.
It is not these people. You should go and look for these criminals.
Exactly, because what I grew up knowing, I mean, in Yoruba, they say that it's one... you know that stick? That is one stick that the Fulani used to control the head. Like more than 200 cows. You know when these Fulani are no longer using
centralization of authority.
We even had this myth about the stick, that when the herdsman puts the stick on the ground, if he likes, let him leave here to VI. The cows will
the vortex.
So, but back to the issue of security, I don't think this government has really tried. Because now, one of the things we have in this country is we don't revisit things. If you look at how many people have died, except the families that lost people, they're the ones still grieving.
That's what Ojukwu calls in his book, because I am involved.
Yes.
Selective amnesia. Selective myopia. Selective...
Ojukwu had a lot of that too.
Selective... hyperopia. Sam, sincerely, we are duty bound. Yeah. To continue to, guide the system and the people, So at the end of the day, we have constitutional democracy.
Yeah, we have to follow the constitution.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing they also say about the government is that we won't forget that one, I want you to comment on that next thing. One, since we are rounding up, one is that it was very lopsided in his appointments. And two, it did not follow rule of law in case of Ezra Zaki, Sambo Dasuki, and so on.
Well, for me, the issue about the lopsidedness in the appointment, I think the Constitution is very, very clear about where the national spread of appointments should be, and that is with regards to his appointment of ministers
yes.
and what have you. For me, I'm less bothered, or I would say, I don't want to go back to, complain about the nature or the character or the structure of his appointment, because I remember vividly well as a Yoruba man, I had a president of my own extraction that was in power for 8 years, and go and look at the road from Lagos to Abeokuta or Shagamu to Ibogun.
It didn't do anything.
You won't believe somebody who was a councillor ever came out from that.
Not the one Shango or Tato.
I said Shagamu to Ibogun is ancestral. So for me, that defeats.
And even Lagos, about the especially a lot of work is going on there.
So that defeats this argument. When people ask that, I ask them, what personal benefit will come to your community or to yourself if this? I prefer we have
the NSA is a Yoruba man.
I prefer,
or the IG is a Yoruba man.
Will they give you special consideration when you have a criminal case?
These are people you can trust.
But it's symbolic. But it's symbolic. Many people see it as symbolic because if you do that, it means you are looking at the world you are looking at the country from the prism of your own ethnic group. You see people in the prism of your ethnic group, and that if you have done all of these good things for me, it's almost as if it is still a cynical good. I give you a house, I give you food, I give you sweet bed, but I still curse you. It's almost like, it's not like you've done nothing. So that's how some people have.
Yes, I agree.
That when you say go, you do road for me, and then when there was crisis, and then you say go and accommodate your neighbor. It's almost as if do you really like me, or are you just patronizing me? That kind of thing, that. So that if he wins in the second term, he needs to look out to that.
Do some balance.
Yes. Then I want you to talk to the issue of the stature of the two main characters, the presidential characters, as that of Buhari and Atiku. In the case of Buhari, the thing is that they say he's a man of high integrity and so on, but yet we still had problems in the past few years about issues about due process and all of that. Remember the case of NNPC, $25 billion. The case of the chief of army staff, who's almost like an organ, in the sense that what you earn, people cannot compare to that. In the case of Atiku, the story is there. Remember the interview by Kadaria, where he says, you were vice president, and your company Intel, you used it virtually to enrich yourself by turning the oil and gas industry into a food for yourself. And then his deputy used state money and invested it in a family
bank.
Not only bank, family business, and also banks. We had interest, and he was not aware of the apparent conflict of interest. He was saying that it made profit for the state. He didn't say how much profit it made for the family. So how do you look at these two?
the two main characters.
Yes.
And let me be personal. I don't need to be objective. The two men
you just say what you feel.
The two men reflect the Nigerian current political realities of absurdities, paradox. And I'm ashamed that is where we are. However, it tells us more about the need to rejig ourselves, galvanize the commoners towards that end, which we all have started at the level of Citizens Forum for constitutional reforms, for a better Nigeria. And we must not say over. because it's not over yet.
but so we have had Buhari, we have Atiku. We have two candidates as, regarded as frontrunners. But we have others. We've had Ezekwesili Sili, who pulled out and who has given account of how he spent about 40-something million naira used for the campaign, which tells you that's the money that a campaign will spend in 2 hours, or 1 hour, or 1 minute.
On here. On here. Live broadcasting.
You have Showore, and you have, of course, our guest last week. Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Then you have Fela Durotoye. Of course, you have the oil baron Kashim Olawipo.
Olawipo.
Yes. So we have a few of them. What have they brought into the narrative?
I think we have a policy, or we have a system where people want proven hands. And for Fela, people don't know much about him. I've known Fela for a long time, great guy. Same for Kingsley, he has his own pedigree, the CBN thing. But we still have, I think earlier somebody said on the panel that we have an electorate that is largely uninformed. Not just uneducated, but uninformed.
That's it.
And that's why when I go to social media and somebody calls me and says, what I'm reading in social media, so it looks like this election is already. I said 98% of those people who are going to vote are not on social media. Don't forget.
You remember? You remember quite well.
Yeah.
At a point in Europe, artisans, illiterates were barred from voting just to purify the process. And I think, and I want to advocate that we have come to that stage to declare emergency. State of emergency. Some people should not vote. They don't have business voting.
You cannot.
The voting. No, I know we'll come back to that.
You cannot disenfranchise people. But sorry, let me just
it's not about disenfranchisement.
Let me finish.
Because we have a largely uninformed public. In saner climes, a Kingsley Moghalu will come out like an Obama.
Yes.
Because he has.
That's the air. That's the air carries. But
he had something going for him during the debate. But you see, at the same time, when Atiku didn't debate with them, you kind of call them like, these are millions.
These are small boys.
We don't want to talk with them. Then, people were still castigating Atiku. Maybe next day or 2 days after, Obi pulled out. Then the other two were saying we're open for negotiation.
With
what is this?
Those are some of
Where are
these?
So that now brings to fact that the populace is not wrong after all. That, okay, we don't
These
need
people are
this
not ready.
These are not ready. These are non-tested things. And so these are pretenders.
We must not pretend about the reality that the people, the electorate, are not informed properly.
That is the case in democracies everywhere.
Yeah.
It happened in Brexit. It happened in the United States. It happened everywhere. That's what I say, United States under Trump.
Election.
Yes.
The exit polls were saying something different. Then at the end of the day,
that is the beauty of democracy, and that is why it is democracy. Whether we want constitutional democracy, liberal democracy is another thing entirely.
Okay.
There could be democracy without written, set constitution, but there will be rules. That is democracy. It's not about literacy. Get it clear. There was democracy in the whole Oyo Empire. And there were standards.
Well, it's a different kind of democracy.
Samuel Huntington, when he came...
The democracy in Oyo Empire had nothing to do with the people. It was only the Oyo Mesi.
That was representative democracy. They were represent. No, I'm a traditionalist.
For
another day. Because your Mesi were subject to so many things. Yes. They were checked.
We'll go back to that later, Sam.
You're a representative, but you're not elected.
Yes, not elected.
Does it follow?
By birth. Yes. Representative by birth.
It goes to say there could be representative popular government without popular election.
Yeah, well, that is another.
That means you are depriving people of their rights.
Of their rights.
No, we'll get back to
It is
that
not popular.
another day.
It is not
By the time you are done with your
unless
theory, we will
Yes.
weigh it against
is not
what you
popular.
are giving and look at the possibility.
it is not popular unless there is the people.
People's participation.
The important thing is legitimacy.
No, how do you
It's
define
not beyond
legitimacy?
legitimacy.
How do you define legitimacy?
No,
People come.
nothing
People
short of
confess legitimacy.
nothing short of legitimacy.
I know
Even
where
if-
it's going. I
and
know where
that's
it's
why
going. The
you
argument
have
you are trying to make
authoritarian-
is that you create a kind of Napoleonic legitimacy by taking it by force and then giving the people what they want, and then the people
now
will.
call it-
It's like conquering.
And we are
it's like-
gradually getting
It's
there.
like forcing yourself.
Wait.
It's like forcing yourself on a person,
Yes.
and then the person comes to love you.
Love you.
This is
that is
not
where
what
we
you
are
want.
heading. That's not the way
It's called the Stockholm. It's called the Stockholm syndrome. Well, we can go on. We can go on and on and on. Thank you very much, my guests. Very, very feisty and intelligent contributions from all three of you. And we can only say that do not forget to vote on election day, and until after the elections,
Don't go.
be good.